Good day, Dolphins, and welcome to the Pro Football Network's Miami Dolphins podcast. I am your co-host, All Freaky, here with the ever-knowledgeable and informative Adam Beasley. How's it going, Adam?
I love the enthusiasm. You are ready to attack the offseason, it sounds like.
There is no offseason, really. I think we both know that.
That is true. How have you been? It's been a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I've been great. I've been keeping abreast of all the news that's going on. And I know that, we've had an interesting week with all the free agency, chatter going on. And you had attended the Combine in Indianapolis, which gave us a lot of good stuff. So, now that free agency is upon us and the Dolphins have already begun to purge some of our fan favorites, what are your thoughts on the Dolphins not tagging Christian Wilkins?
Yeah, I'm surprised you're not wearing black. I mean, it's a funeral for some Dolphins fans because beyond Wilkins, Xavier Howard is gone, Jerome Baker. Those are three absolute cornerstone pieces of that defense that all likely will be gone in 2024. I know there's a chance, obviously, that all three could be brought back. But usually when you get to that stage and you see what's out there, 9 times out of 10, you're going to find a better offer somewhere. The Dolphins have a price point for Jerome Baker. Dolphins have a price point for Christian Wilkins and for Xavier Howard too. And although it doesn't sound like they really tried to negotiate too much with X before letting him go, if they had asked him to take a pay cut, he would have said no because he made it clear at the end of the season that it's not something he was interested in. Could it be an involuntary pay cut? And him going out there and seeing the market isn't quite as strong as he thought. We'll see. But my guess is they're going to have to fill all three of those positions, either through free agency or the draft. And we can go through them one by one, I guess. Wilkins, to me, is the biggest missed opportunity. We've known for a few years now he's a really good player, but I don't think they saw the rocket ship ascendance he took in 2023 playing under Vic Fangio, to be honest, and how they used him last year was pretty elite. The idea that maybe you can get him for $20 million and change a year, that day's gone. I think you're looking more like 23, 24, $25 million a season. That would put him in the, say, Quinnen Williams range. And when Quinnen Williams signed that contract, that was before the cap just went bonkers. The cap has gone up by 13%. I think we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. That means that basically a player that was worth $1 in 2023 is worth $1.30 now. No, $1.13. That's my math. $1.13. I am a journalist, not a math major. But regardless, inflation's real in the National Football League. And I think the Dolphins are going to find themselves priced out of some of these top-end players. And it's unfortunate.
I agree. I mean, we have seen several teams who did opt to use their franchise tag at a variety of different positions, including, Jacksonville, Kansas City, Tampa Bay. What are your thoughts on those players that were tagged?
Yeah, certainly. Some of them were pretty obvious, right? We knew that T. Higgins was not going to be allowed to go anywhere. Jalen Johnson of the Bears, one of the best young corners in football, he wasn't going to go anywhere. There, you had a sense of that. Antoine Winfield, I don't think the safety market's that high. Brian Burns might be a tag and trade situation. And Michael Pittman, I think, was just a reflection of a pretty soft wide receiver market in free agency. It's kind of crazy, though. Like, every year there are like 5, 6, 7 really, really good wide receivers coming out of the draft now. I don't know what's changed. Before it was cross your fingers if you draft a wide receiver. Those are really a hard position to project for. But I think these passing camps these players are going to at an early age have really kind of taught them at age 14, 15, 16 how to act like a college student. And then in college, it's just, hey, this is preparing you for the NFL. And a lot of these guys are coming in ready-made. So, could the Colts have gotten away without tagging Pittman? Perhaps. But beyond that, I mean, Matabuke, he was a no-brainer for the Ravens to tag. He and Wilkins would have been the best two defensive tackles in the market. And Chris Jones, obviously, is, in that group as well, but he's a bit older. But by and large, there weren't any big shockers to me. I guess Wilkins was the only one that people thought might happen. But even still, 2-3 days out, we kind of got the sense that he was going to be able to get to the market.
Indeed. So, as for our Dolphins, Baker, Agba, and Howard, all being released over the course of the last week or so, and as we discussed in the previous show, these guys were pretty much like expectedly to be on the chopping block. So, I guess the concern amongst the fans now is what becomes of our Dolphins defense.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have to make some significant moves, right? And I don't think anything that they've done in the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it's been, hasn't been something that they kind of thought was going to be the outcome in January. And so my guess is when they were talking to Anthony Weaver about being the next defensive coordinator, he had an idea of who was going to be back and who wasn't, who he needs. Like, I think it's fair for DCs who come in to get their own guys, and there will be an opportunity for him to upgrade in a lot of ways. Now, here's the problem: they don't have any money, right? They're $15 million over the cap, and even when they can clear out space, but there's a billion with a B, $1 billion of available cap space floating around out there, and that number is going to continue to go up as cuts are made and restructures and all that. So even if, say, the Dolphins get some purchasing power, let's say they get to $35 million of cap space. And to do that, by the way, they're going to have to, we played restructure or not the last time we talked, they're going to have to restructure some deals to kick the can down the road and all that. But even if they do all that, it's going to be tough for them to compete at the high level for the high end guys, simply because we're going to see salaries, Allie, that I think are going to shock people, simply because there's just so much money to spend, so much more money into that's been flushed into the market. Now, there are some that say this was kind of like the Taylor effect, right? That this is kind of a 1 year bump for the salary cap because of not just revenue that she helped bring in by interest, but in general, a lot of the COVID money that was saved, was put aside, has now been able to be released, and so this might be just a 1 year bump, but I don't think the cap's going to go down significantly going forward. So this is kind of the new normal, I think we'll see. So I think teams are going to spend the money. I think they're going to have money to spend. And the Dolphins, again, even if they clear out some space, it's going to be tough for them. So I think you're going to see them, the big first wave. We have everybody, PFN's got the top 100 free agents. Everyone has their own top free agent list. The high end guys are going to probably be out of reach for the Dolphins. Maybe they can grab one, the top 15, the top 20. But the idea that they're going to be players on a bunch of high end guys, I think, is just, they got so many needs and such little money that they're going to have to, it might be Walmart shopping and not, Barney's this year for them.
Sure. Yeah. I think we have reason to be concerned. I know a lot of the fans have been trying to do the math. And I think I speak for a lot of us when I'm like, okay, we're a little bit, lost in where we are now that, we've made these releases. And so you say, we're 15 over still. So we have a lot of work to be done.
Yeah.
So I guess,
As
go
a
ahead.
fan, when a guy like Wilkins isn't brought back, when a guy like Baker is cut, how do you digest that as a fan?
You don't. We can't. We depend on you to do that for us.
No, I mean, it's from an emotional standpoint. Like, how do you
It's
like?
tricky. Yeah, we
Yeah,
understand that a lot of these guys have been with us for a long time, and we develop personal connections with these guys, and we don't see all of the ins and outs of the money and the salaries and all the things. So, for us, it is difficult. It is shocking right now to see what the Dolphins are doing, but we have to trust the process.
well,
So.
yeah. I mean, that's the key. Is that, and I think this is the big question that we have to ask: is that, are they reloading or are they resetting? Right? Because uh, we've talked about since 2019 this rebuild, this tank job, tear down, whatever you want to call it, and rebuild. And the payoff was supposed to be Super Bowls. It was supposed to be wins in the playoffs. It was supposed to
Yeah.
be competing consistently. What did Steve Ross say? He wants to build a sustainable business model. Well, I mean, how sustainable is letting one of your 4 or 5 best players walk out the door and having to cut maybe your second best cornerback of all time and all these things? I think that 2023 was their big shot. Like, you look, the Chiefs until late in the season weren't the Chiefs of old, right? They're a team that turned it on. Even Christmas Day, they had a horrible loss, was it to the Raiders? And people were thinking, hey, is this team going to flame out of the playoffs this year? Is this the year that we finally see Patrick Mahomes is mortal? And of course, he's not. He's the best player in the world. They went all win the Super Bowl. But even still, the Bills were 3 games back with 5 to go, right? The Bengals, Joe Burrow hurt. Like, last year was it. Last year was the year for the Dolphins to make some noise, and they lost in the first round of the playoffs. What's their answer, right? What's next for them? And I think that's what we're going to see unfold over the next 2 weeks. It's going to be great. It's going to be hugely informative as to what their thinking is as a franchise. Are they close? And do they load up in 2024 and really make that run? Or do they soft land a little bit and say, hey, there are all these contracts that we have. We can't pay everybody. And if we totally load up in 2024, there might be a price to pay in 25 and beyond. The Jalen Walls of the world might have to walk. The Javon Hollins, these young homegrown players. We've already seen Christian Wilkins be able to reach the market. Do you want the same song and dance, next year and the year after? Like Javon Hollins going to be a free agent in 12 months. Do you get him locked up soon? I think Waddle and Phillips, they have some more of a runway because they have a fifth-year option. But we're getting to the point where they can't bring everybody back, and they're going to have to make strategic choices. And that happens to every good team. The trade-off, though, is like you're usually getting some success in the playoffs, right? If you're having to let these top-end players walk, it's because they're playing really well and you're winning a lot of games. Well, the Dolphins won a lot of regular season games. They had the best 2-year stretch, I think, since the early 2000s just now. But you didn't have the playoff success to go with it. And so to me, it's going to be great to see. It's going to be great to see if they believe, like they've already planted their flag. We are going to pay Tua, right? Tua is going to be our franchise quarterback. Okay, well, you do that, and there are certain things you can't do. You can't make the Tyreek type of trade 2-3 years if you're paying your quarterback $45-50 million a year, right?
Sure.
You're not going to be able to pay the Christian Wilkins of the world. You're going to have to let them walk. There are a lot of factors involved. Like, seriously, do you know what Christian Wilkins' franchise tag number is? Is $22 million. You know what $22 million is? It's basically the difference between Tua's 2023 salary and his 2024 salary. So Tua alone, the increase in salary for him from, I don't know, whatever it was, $2-3 million a year last year, to 22, 23, whatever it is now, is the reason that if they wanted to franchise Wilkins, it became cost prohibitive for them to do so. Now you extrapolate that forward, and he's making $45-50 million a year. So you're talking about two Wilkinses that you're going to lose because of it, not just one.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the kind of, do they believe that this nucleus can get it done, that this nucleus can compete in an AFC that's absolutely loaded? I've got some doubts. I don't know what your thoughts are. But it's going to be really telling what degree of faith they have in this group. Because if they totally load up and go for it this year, and if it works, awesome. Nobody cares about Cap Hill in 2025 if we're celebrating on a parade down Biscayne Boulevard or wherever it be. Right? Nobody would care. And you better be at that parade.
Oh, you already know.
But if it's another one and done in the playoffs, and all you have to show for your credit card debt is 3 straight losses in the first round, yikes.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, we already have a lot of people questioning Greer and, his tactics. On one hand, you have people who say he's a genius, and then you have other people who are saying that he's destroying this team. And so there's so many things that just factor into this. And yet still, we have a few questions that remain, even in terms of like Robert Hunt, Connor Williams, Teron Armstead. There's still so many questions. Do you have any intel as far as like what's going on with these particular guys?
Yeah, so I think in order of likelihood of returning, Armstead 1, Williams 2, Hunt 3. I think they're not going to be able to afford Hunt. I know he posted on the IG today. I guess he was back at the facility.
Yeah,
it's nice. I hope he continues to have conversations with the team because he's a really good player and the Dolphins should bring him back. But with the situation, he's probably going to get Allie, I would say 12 to 14, maybe $15 million a year on the open market. If you're not able to bring back Christian Wilkins because he's too expensive, a much less impactful position at guard, are you going to pay top of the market?
Mm-hmm.
Probably not. You're probably looking at the draft. So, I think that Robert Hunt does deserve to go out and get a ton of money in free agency. It probably just won't be from the Miami Dolphins.
Interesting. Yeah, I saw that post this morning. And, obviously it sent social media into a tailspin like everything does. I think it's pretty obvious that the Dolphin fans are starting to panic a little bit. And, by the looks of it, some of these guys that we have released, still could return to the team. So, what does our team now kind of look like compared to last year's team?
It's not as good. I mean, right now, like you look at who's under contract in 2024, and it's, yeah, it's lean, right? You got on offense, Tua, obviously, Tyreek and Waddle. You need a number three receiver. Your running back position's fine, right? You've got Mostert, you've
Yeah.
got Achan, and you got Jeff Wilson under contract, and they got Chris Brooks too, a rookie. I think they
Mhm.
continue to try to upgrade that position, but running back, they're fine.
Mhm.
Beyond that, offensive line, the only known starter you have back in 2024 is Austin Jackson. All four other positions are up in the air. I think they could probably work something out with Connor Williams long term, but do you wait 2 months, 3 months until he decides he wants to play again? And if he
Mhm.
says no, you're in a big bind at center. I mean, do you want to go into the season with Liam Eichenberg as your center again? Probably not. Then tight end, I know Johnny Smith visited on Tuesday.
Mhm.
I think there's a real chance that happens. I think that'd be really smart. Pairing him with Durham Smythe would be good. Like that would
Okay.
be a really good. It would be like the peak Gasecki Smythe era, late in the Flores run
Mhm.
when he was catching a ton of passes and scoring touchdowns. Gasecki, that is. I think you could see that similar here. So I don't think any of these problems aren't fixable. They're just going to have to be creative. On
Mhm.
defense, like you're talking about Wilkins likely gone. You're talking about your two best pass rushers hurt, right? Phillips and Chubb. So they'll be back at some point. Are they back for week one? We don't know. Linebacker, you're going to need an off-ball linebacker, or at least one, probably two, because Baker's gone. In the secondary, no Xavier Howard, no Deshaun Elliott. Both of those guys are free agents now. So Ramsey obviously back. Cam Smith take a step forward? Does Kader Kohu play better? You don't know. And they definitely get a safety too.
Mhm.
I think an interesting name to watch would be Jordan Poyer. We're taping this at 3:52 p.m. on Wednesday. Right before we went on the air, the news came out that the Bills were cutting Poyer. I think that's a fascinating name. 32, believe, 32 years old. Um, Lives in South Florida, was tied to the Dolphins last year. I think you could connect those dots and see, hey, do you need a year or two stopgap safety, a guy who can knows what he's doing, smart guy. Maybe a little bit drop off physically because he's so far into his career, but he's always going to be in the right place. He's going to, he would work well, I think, with Holland. Um, Still has plenty of football, I think, left in him. I think that's a fit. They still would need to find another corner. There's some cornerback options out there. Something to consider, Allie. Okay, so this is really getting into the weeds, but every move they make in free agency is going to be how it helps them now and how it potentially could hurt them in 2025 because of compensatory picks.
Mhm.
There's the formula. Like every team, comp picks are if you lose a bunch of free agents and you don't sign a bunch of free agents, you get picks the next year. You get extra draft picks.
Okay.
Um, and the Dolphins have in the past, they haven't recently because they've been on such a spending spree, have in the past been strategic about who they sign. So if you would lose Christian Wilkins and Robert Hunt and not sign free agents of that level, which they're not likely not going to be able to because they don't have the money to do it, you will get draft picks for that.
Mhm.
Now, if you do sign players that are cut, they're called street free agents like Jordan Poyer. There's a bunch of other names we're going to go through in a bit. If he's a cut player, he's a street free agent. He doesn't count against you in that formula. So they can load up on a bunch of guys whose contracts were terminated by their last team over the course of the last 2-3 weeks and not have it hurt them when it comes to comp picks. So I think
Interesting.
that's the
Okay.
approach. I think that's the approach you're going to see them take. Their free agent signings are going to be more in the mold of a Jordan Poyer, guys that maybe are a bit past their prime, but they can get on a good value contract and it's not going to hurt them with their comp picks in 2025.
Very interesting. Okay, so free agency, starts the 13th. So we know our phones are going to be blowing up constantly. But just so the fans know, Pro Football Network has all the news you could possibly want pertaining to free agency, draft, and beyond. Just visit profootballnetwork.com and you can get everything you need to know there. I am so excited to see what the Dolphins do in free agency. I know everyone else is at the edge of their seat waiting, for all this news. Like, are we officially losing Wilkins? Where's Baker going to go? All these different things. So I guess we'll be finding out soon. Any closing thoughts?
Yeah, no, I do think there are. It's going to be, as I mentioned, a really interesting time for the Dolphins. I think they got a lot of needs, right? We
Yeah.
went through a bunch of them. I think they can address a lot of those needs in ways I talked about. We, really, really focus on uh, players that they can get on 1 or 2 year stopgap deals that might have cost them a lot more money 2 years ago than they do now,
Mhm.
but fit their culture and fit their scheme. I think there are a lot of names out there that are interesting. I mentioned Poyer, the cornerback Darius Williams, recently cut by the Jaguars. He played for I think 2 or 3 years with Jalen Ramsey in LA. I think that is a real pairing you might see happen again.
Mhm.
If, and he was. It's surprising that they cut him because he's still a really good player. Kevin Byard, something with Poyer can't be done. Another solid safety that I think the Dolphins will absolutely consider. It's unfortunate a little bit that Charles Leno, tackle for the Commanders, his career might be over. I believe today he had major hip surgery. He's out at least six
Okay.
months. If he was a guy who was healthy, I could see him being a fit with the Dolphins. Eric Kendricks, inside linebacker, a linebacker with the Chargers last year, long career. I think he's still got some stuff left in the tank. We mentioned the tight end position, maybe Jonnu Smith. If not, Will Dissly, I think, is a guy they'll kick the tires on from the Seahawks. Isaiah Oliver, cornerback from the Niners. There are options out there that the Dolphins can find. These players will be flawed, right? They won't be these perfect. They won't be a Tyreek type of, Tyreek, Bradley Chubb, these
Mhm.
high end, in their prime, elite players.
Sure.
They just can't do that. Something else to consider that we haven't really talked about: potential trades, and that's where I think the Dolphins have done their best work. I think um, they've signed some solid free agents. They've overpaid in other ways, but they were able to get Ramsey for a song. They got Tyreek Hill in here via trade. They got Bradley Chubb, who again, unfortunately hurt his knee, but he was one of the top 4 or 5 pass rushers in all of football before he got hurt. Chris Greer is really, really good at executing trades. And I think you're going to see them be creative in ways that don't hurt them beyond. Like, I think it's important to them that they have their draft picks, like the
Mhm.
majority of their draft picks. They haven't really drafted at all recently. The last 2 years, they haven't a first round pick.
Right.
You go out and get Tyreek Hill, you go out and get Bradley Chubb, you go out and you spend draft assets to get these high end guys. You're not going to have anybody in late April when it's time to pick. I think it's important for them this year to have that first round pick, to have that second round pick. But beyond that, maybe they trade assets in 2025 because as I mentioned, they have those extra comp picks that they can bank on, and maybe go out and find, hey, you want a B plus guard, guys, and coming into his contract year, the Dolphins will give up maybe a 2025 fourth round pick for him,
Mhm.
and they plug him in and play. I think that's really where Greer does a lot of his really good work, and I think you're going to see them be creative. They're going to have to be creative because even if they're going to do this kind of soft landing that I was talking about, which I don't know if fans are thrilled about because the soft landing means they're probably not set up to win at all in 2024, and after 50 some odd years of not being the best team in the National Football League,
Nobody wants to hear that.
nobody wants to hear that. But when you want a sustainable franchise, right, and you want something that isn't going to just completely collapse when the money runs out, I think it might be the smart move.
Okay, awesome, Adam. Thank you so much for all of your insight, as always. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to Adam and I through socials. Yeah, and we'll see what happens this week. I'm excited.
Yeah, and make sure everyone who enjoys this product continues to enjoy it. Subscribe to us wherever you can get your podcasts. We're there. The PFN Miami Dolphins podcast. Type that into the little search bar. Subscribe. It'd be great. Watch us on YouTube. We are everywhere. And for those listening, you'll get to see Dolph Freaky's blue hair or aqua. I'm sorry, aqua hair. It's not blue. It's aqua.
It's
How many
worth
of
it
those?
to watch the video cast.
How many of those wigs do you own, by the way?
I have about 9 different forms, but I have multiple of each type. Uh, a lot of
Is
people
it
ask about it. They think it's my real hair, but there's just no possible way.
Is it like, do you have one for every mood? Like, if you're sad one day, do you have a sad wig?
You know, it's it. It kind of depends on weather mostly. If it's hot, like you'll see me wearing the short kind of bob haircut during training camp when it's 99 degrees out there. And then, if I'm more relaxed, like I'm in my air conditioning right now, I'll wear my longer wig, just feeling it out, whatever. But I do have a very bright orange, fiery wig for when I'm really fired up. And that's very, very rarely seen, but maybe I'll break it out one of these weeks.
Yeah, I mean, if they have a great week in free agency next week, maybe we see that
Let's do
then,
it.
right?
Okay.
Are you back for another week? You want to do this again next week?
Yeah, let's do it again.
All right, we'll keep this rolling. Thank you
All right.
for everyone for listening, and enjoy what should be a very interesting next couple of weeks.
Thank you guys. Fins up.